It's good to be here in Chicago.
I was disgusted the whole time. That's all I have to say about it, really.
Erika Kirk just faced one of the most uncomfortable, headline-grabbing moments of her entire career. And it happened right in front of hundreds of high school students who were not shy about how they felt. This was not some elite university crowd trying to score political points. This was a regular public high school in Illinois, filled with teenagers who reacted in real time, no filter, no polish, just raw energy. She walked into Genoa Kingston High School like she was stepping onto a spotlighted stage ready for applause and admiration. You could tell she expected that polished, picture-perfect moment, the kind where students sit quietly, nodding along, maybe even feeling inspired.
That exchange is actually in reference to Erika then having sent this 15-year-old to have photos taken. So Erika having done this is completely and utterly creepy. It's creepy. It makes no sense.
In her mind, this was going to be powerful, memorable, impactful. She likely thought every word would land just right. But instead, the whole vibe shifted almost instantly. As she started speaking, the room did not respond the way she expected. Students laughed during parts of her speech, some openly, rolled their eyes without even trying to hide it. A few stood up and walked out mid-event like they had somewhere better to be. There was no dramatic protest, no shouting match, just clear disinterest and visible discomfort. And when a video of the event leaked online, it captured everything.
We've learned in the Podesta emails, as we learned in the Einstein emails, when you're talking about pizza, you're not always talking about pizza. The 15-year-old girl that 25-year-old Erika Franzwe is striking up a relationship.
The awkward pauses, the forced smiles, the weak applause, the tense silence hanging in the air. The energy in that room felt heavy, and people watching online could see it clear as day. But this situation did not exist in a vacuum. It was not just a speech that went sideways. The tension had already been building days before she even stepped foot in that school. Online, alleged messages began circulating. People claimed the messages showed Erika communicating with a 15-year-old girl in ways that many viewers described as inappropriate and concerning. It is important to stress that these were allegations spreading on social media, not proven facts.
He lived his life in a way where he was not afraid to speak. He chose to use his voice for something so powerful. And I want you guys to understand that every decision will make a mark on your soul.
Still, the tone of those messages, according to critics, raised serious questions about boundaries between adults and teenagers. A lot of people online said the dynamic felt off and that adults need to maintain clear, responsible lines when interacting with minors. The debate grew fast and emotions ran high. Then came the timing, and that is where things really started to look complicated. Around the same period these claims were spreading, Erika was actively touring high schools. She was speaking to students, helping launch clubs, and getting structured access to campuses filled with minors.
People look back on your life 12, 13, 15 years, and they'll say, wow, you made those choices, you made those decisions. Yeah, in those moments, but my aunt used to tell me, never do something that you don't want on the front page of the newspaper. Live your life in that way.
For many observers, that overlap raised eyebrows quickly. Critics began asking pointed questions about oversight and supervision. Who approves these school visits? What safeguards are in place? Are parents fully aware of who is being invited into these spaces? You could feel the unease building as people connected the dots. The event itself was part of something called the History Rocks Tour. Reports say the tour has backing connected to the Department of Education. And yes, that department is currently led by Linda McMahon, the former WWE executive who now serves as Secretary of Education. The fact that her department was reportedly linked in partnership with Erika Kirk drew even more public attention. That connection made the situation feel bigger than just one speaker at one school. Think about the scale of that for a second. This was not just a private organization renting out an auditorium for an afternoon talk. This was described as a federally supported initiative providing structured access to public high schools.
The way that you live your life every single day, it matters. Ladies, be that, be ladies, be modest. Live your life in a way that's honoring. Honor your parents.
That detail alone made some parents and teachers stop and think. Taxpayer dollars, public campuses, teenage students, political activism, all bundled together in one program. For some families, that combination felt like a lot to process. During the Trump administration, programs like this reportedly expanded, giving speakers like Erika a clearer pathway into schools across the country. Supporters argue that bringing different voices into schools encourages debate and civic engagement. Critics argue that boundaries must be crystal clear when it comes to minors and political messaging. Either way, what happened at Genoa Kingston High School turned into more than just an awkward speech. It became part of a much bigger conversation about access, responsibility, and trust.
I, again, am so grateful to be here because this is where it all started for Charlie.
And once that video hit the internet, there was no controlling the narrative. People dissected every reaction, every facial expression, every moment of silence. Some saw disrespectful students. Others saw teenagers responding honestly to something that did not resonate. But no matter which side people took, one thing was obvious: how that day did not unfold the way Erika expected, and the internet made sure nobody missed it. Many parents later said they had no idea these events were even taking place until their kids came home talking about them afterward. That lack of communication instantly added tension. For families, it was not just about politics, it was about transparency. If outside speakers are coming onto campus, parents expect to know. When that did not happen clearly enough, it made people feel blindsided.
Insane. She sent this 15-year-old to have photos taken. She's helping her because she's just so beautiful get into maybe some modeling. That's at least how she presented it to her. So after telling her how beautiful and perfect her lips were, she then sets her up.
And that feeling spread fast. On paper, the visit was meant to help launch a Turning Point Club chapter. It is described as a student organization centered around conservative values, civic engagement, and leadership skills. Supporters say it encourages students to think for themselves, ask questions, and step into the political arena with confidence. They argue it builds independence and gives teens tools to understand how the system works. That is the public pitch. But critics see something different. They believe it looks less like simple student engagement and more like organized recruitment. In their view, it is about shaping perspectives early.
With a photographer, a friend of Erika's. Erika, she says, arranged the entire thing. This person she had only met once, then after what maybe love bombing her, you describe it, then sends her to meet up with this male photographer. And Jillian said that this photographer was kind of...
Now let's talk about what actually went down when Erika stepped on that stage, because the footage had social media buzzing nonstop. First, the outfit. Erika showed up dressed in ripped jeans, a casual top, and a laid-back style that looked like she was trying to match the student vibe.
She's trying to remember his name. She says she remembers it began with an R, and he was kind of shorter, chubbier. And yeah, I'd say, yeah, Jillian, that's pretty creepy. Any photographer.
The message seemed clear, relatable, chill, not too formal. She was not wearing a power suit. She was going for cool and approachable, but for many watching, it did not quite land that way. Instead of natural, some people felt it looked calculated, like someone trying a little too hard to rewind the clock and blend into a crowd that could see right through it. The students were not confused. You could read it on their faces. Before she even got deep into her speech, the room already felt tense. Arms crossed, side glances, quiet whispers floating through the seats. The energy was stiff from the start. Then came the speech itself.
Who is taking photos of a 15-year-old without their parents' consent is a creep. I would also similarly say that any person who is arranging for photographs to be taken of a 15-year-old girl without explicit permission from that person's mother.
And that is where things got even more uncomfortable. It sounded heavily rehearsed, almost overly polished, like every sentence had been practiced in front of a mirror. The problem? It did not seem connected to what these teens are actually dealing with day to day. She kept bringing up Charlie, his legacy, and how he used his voice. She spoke about courage, about standing firm, about speaking truth boldly. But here is where the tension really spiked. These students live on social media. They scroll, they watch clips, they read headlines, they have heard the discussions. They know about former employees who publicly spoke out. They have seen conversations about NDAs that were reportedly used in the past. Whether every claim is proven or not, the students are aware of the chatter. They are not disconnected from the wider, A conversation. So when Erika stood there praising someone for using his voice, the irony was not subtle to that audience. You could hear laughter ripple through parts of the room. And it was not supportive laughter. It sounded more like disbelief. Because how do you highlight freedom of expression while critics claim people in your circle felt pressure to stay silent? That contrast hit hard. The discomfort in the room became almost impossible to ignore. Then she pivoted into life advice. She told the students, "Never compromise your character." She added, "Never do anything you wouldn't want on the front page of a newspaper." That line hung in the air for a second. Then came the reactions. Visible shock, exaggerated eye rolls, quiet murmurs spreading row by row. Online, people later called that moment bold. Some even described it as unbelievable. Why such a strong reaction? Because at the same time she was delivering that advice, her own past was being intensely debated across the internet. Fair or not, that context shaped how students received every word. In that room, perception mattered just as much as intention, and the gap between the two felt massive. There are still ongoing discussions surrounding her professional relationships, internal disputes, and allegations that are being examined publicly. Questions about her conduct and personal boundaries have not fully disappeared, at least in the eyes of critics. Supporters say some claims are exaggerated or taken out of context. Critics argue there are still gaps that need clearer answers. So when she stepped into the role of moral guide for teenagers, that contrast felt huge to many people watching. That is when the atmosphere shifted from mildly awkward to openly explosive. The tone in the room changed, the whispers got louder, the side glances multiplied. And there she was, telling teenagers to guard their character and live with integrity, speaking with total confidence. But the students did not look convinced. You could see it written across their faces. Some stared straight ahead with stiff expressions. Others exchanged quick looks with friends. They were silently asking, "Are we really hearing this right now?" A few leaned back in their seats, arms folded, eyebrows raised. The energy in the room tipped, and it was not moving in her direction. Then came the moment that truly stirred the crowd. Erika began directing specific advice toward the young women in the audience. She encouraged them to be modest, to honor their parents, and to embrace traditional values. On their own, those ideas are not automatically controversial. Many families teach modesty and respect at home every single day. That part by itself is not shocking. What made it intense was who was delivering the message. Almost immediately, critics online brought up her earlier career before she married Charlie. Old modeling photos resurfaced. Clips from reality show auditions started circulating again. Comment sections filled up fast. In the past, she had presented a very different public image than the one she promotes now. Supporters argue that growth is real, that people mature, shift priorities, and evolve over time. Critics, on the other hand, say the transformation feels carefully timed and strategic. That sharp contrast is what poured gasoline on the backlash. So when she stood there presenting herself as a model of traditional Christian values, some students were not fully buying in. Several reportedly spoke to local reporters afterward and said the message felt inconsistent with what they had seen online. Students from Chicago described the event as awkward and claimed parts of it felt more performative than genuine. From their perspective, the issue was not modesty itself. It was credibility. They felt the message and the messenger did not line up, and that disconnect is what sent the clip racing across social media feeds. It did not cool down. In fact, it escalated. A large group of parents and community members gathered near the entrance, and they were not standing there quietly. They held signs high. Some chanted, others demanded direct answers from school administrators. The mood felt charged. Their main question was simple and direct. How was Erika granted access to their children in the first place? For many of them, this was not about left or right politics. It was about process and oversight. Public schools typically have strict procedures for guest speakers, background checks, approval forms, content reviews, age-appropriate guidelines. Parents wanted to know what boxes were checked and who signed off. They wanted clarity. In their view, transparency should come first, especially when outside figures are given structured time with teenagers. Whether someone supports Erika or criticizes her, that concern about process added another layer to an already heated situation. And once cameras captured both the tense auditorium and the loud crowd outside, the story exploded far beyond that one Illinois school. That kind of screening process is standard practice in public schools. Guest speakers usually go through background reviews, administrative approval, and content checks before they ever step on campus. So naturally, people began asking questions. Who signed off on this visit? Who reviewed her background? Who decided this was the right choice for a high school audience at this exact moment? Those questions did not come out of nowhere. From the outside looking in, it appeared everything moved fast, especially with reported backing connected to the Department of Education. To critics, that raised concerns about whether the approval process was fully transparent. They argue that when taxpayer-funded institutions are involved, clarity should not be optional. Supporters push back and say she was invited as part of a recognized student organization effort, nothing more dramatic than that. But once doubts start spreading, it is hard to slow them down. By the time those debates gained traction, the event had already happened. The speech was delivered, the reactions were recorded, the videos were circulating, and then came the detail that truly intensified the situation: the timing. Just days before the school visit, old messages from 2013 and 2014 resurfaced online. According to online claims, the messages were between Erika, who was 25 at the time, and a 15-year-old girl named Jill Falcon. The screenshots spread quickly across social media platforms. Comment sections filled up within hours. The reaction was immediate and intense. It is important to state that resurfaced online messages often lack full context, and interpretations can vary. Still, people began raising serious questions about boundaries and judgment. Many asked whether it was appropriate for someone facing that kind of public scrutiny to be speaking directly to minors in a school setting. Even if nothing illegal was proven, critics argued that perception alone matters when it comes to adults interacting with teenagers. In their view, schools should be extra cautious when there are active controversies circulating. That combination, protests outside, viral debate online, and a school appearance happening right in the middle of it, is what transformed this from a routine speaking event into a full-scale public storm. It was no longer just about one speech. It became about oversight, responsibility, and timing all colliding at once. Outside the school building, the tension matched what was happening online. A large group of parents and community members gathered near the entrance, and they were far from relaxed. Some held signs high above their heads. Others chanted. Several demanded direct answers from the school administration. The mood felt heated and urgent. Their main question was straightforward: how was Erika granted access to their children in the first place? For many of them, this was not framed as a partisan fight. They described it as a process issue. Public schools usually follow clear procedures for guest speakers: background checks, approval forms, content reviews, and age-appropriate guidelines. That structure exists to protect students and maintain trust. So when controversy is already swirling online, parents expect extra caution, not confusion. Again, people asked who signed off, who reviewed her background carefully, who determined this was the right fit for a teenage audience. From their perspective, those are not dramatic questions. They are basic ones. Critics continue to argue that the approval process should have been more transparent, especially given the resurfaced messages and public debate. Supporters maintain that she was participating in a recognized student club initiative, and that controversy online does not automatically disqualify someone from speaking. Both sides hold firm positions, and neither appears ready to back down. But timing is everything. With old messages circulating, online commentary exploding, and protests forming at the school entrance, the appearance created a perfect storm of optics. Whether someone sees it as unfair targeting or legitimate concern, the reality is that perception shaped the outcome. What might have been a routine campus event instead became a national talking point almost overnight. In the end, it was not just one speech that sparked outrage. It was the layering of unresolved questions, resurfaced history, and immediate access to a young audience that pushed the situation into overdrive. Once all of that collided in one place at one time, the fallout was inevitable, and the conversation is still echoing far beyond that Illinois campus.